Hey, how are you doing? It's Alan here from Look for Warriors, and I want to tell you a little story about something that happened to me over the last few days. I was helping my son with his homework, and he's doing what's called in Ireland the Leaving Cert, which is the main exam you do in Ireland. And he was stuck on one thing in maths: quadratic equations. I don't know if you know anything about quadratic equations, but I picked up the book and the exam paper and the bits and pieces all around quadratic equations, the copy book, and I looked at it, and as I looked at it, I realized, yes, I remember this. I did this in school. I remember doing this in 5th year and 6th year. Quadratic equations. So I remember are you ever on that edge where you almost remember something but not quite? You can't remember how it was done, but you kind of remember doing it. It's a little bit like, do you ever get that feeling when you're not asleep yet? You're in bed, you're about to fall asleep. You're not fully awake, but you're not fully asleep, but you're between that stage of being awake and going to sleep, and in that nice little stage where you're so relaxed and comfortable and you're just about to fall asleep. Or you have something on the tip of your tongue and you want to say it and you just can't remember what it was. I was in that kind of frame of mind. I know this. I did this. I remember doing these. I remember hating these. I remember doing them. And I remember being able to do them quite easily. By the time I was doing the exam, I knew how to do them. But that was 20 years ago? Maybe it was 20 years ago. More. Sorry, I'm older than I think. It was more than 20 years ago. And I'm looking at them now, and I have not used these. I've not used these quadratic equations once. I've done a lot of things. I've had to do really a lot of things. I've had to go to interviews. I've had to learn things. I've had to learn a lot about digital marketing, programming, design. Learned so much. I have never ever once used these quadratic equations. I've done programming. It doesn't relate. The quadratic equations, maybe they're used in science, I don't know. I don't know where they're used. Maybe it's just higher level maths if you go to college and do like a maths course or something. But I have lived a life. I've lived quite a life. And I've never ever needed quadratic equations. And now I'm looking at my son, I'm like, you need to learn these now. Why? And I went through it, and I was like, I can't remember how you do these. And I was like, let me just sit down and just work this out. Give me a few minutes, I'll work this out. And it was annoying me that I couldn't remember how to do them. And I guess maybe I was a bit irritable or something. I was like, it was just annoying me that I couldn't remember how to use them, because I knew them, but I just couldn't remember how to do it. So I was like, I can't do this. How do you do it now? He knew. He was kind of stuck a bit, but he was working it out. And he was like, well, you just take this equation and you multiply by this equation, and that's the result you get. And I was like, right, but why? Why do you do that? And he was like, I don't know why you do it. You just do it. That's how you get the answer. And this is everything. This, to me, is everything I don't like about the education system. Quadratic equations. Two things. First of all, I've never used quadratic equations. They are completely useless as far as building a successful life. How important are they to me? Now, you have to learn them because they're in the exam and you want to get a result in the exam. But how useful are they in real life? Have I ever been in a situation where I've had to paint a house, I've had to build something in a house, and I've used my quadratic equation to work it out? Have I ever gone into an interview and they've said to me, hey, the only thing you need to do actually for this job is if you can work out quadratic equations, then you get the job? Never once. Have I ever been in a dating situation where you meet a girl and she's asking you, well, I really like guys who know quadratic equations. How are you on quadratic equations? And you're like, well, funny you should say that, because I'm really good at quadratic equations. I've never been in that situation either. And my other issue with quadratic equations is, you just put this formula into this formula, this into this, and then you get the answer. Why do you do that? I don't know. And as far as I can see, nobody knows. I couldn't find anyone who knows. Now, maybe you know. If you know, will you put it in the comments for me? Because this would really, really make my day if someone knew why you do it. But I'm sure there's like maths experts or whatever out there who know why you do it. But none of the kids in school know why. They just know you do it. And this is one of the things I don't like about education is you just do what you're told. Do A, B, C, and D, and we give you the result at the end. A nice little meat grinder, sausage factory. You just do A, B, C, and D. You just learn to do exactly what you're told. Like the factory model. If you go back to John Taylor Gatto, he talks about the school being a factory model coming out of Prussia, and building the school being able to build soldiers who run into cannon fire and run into machine gun fire without asking questions, because they'll do what they're told to do, whatever it is. And is that the kind of person that we want to be producing today? The person who will do what they're told without asking any questions? Or do we want to produce the person who finds something deep inside them that they want to pursue, and they go find the learning that they need in order to pursue that thing that they're being called towards? So quadratic equations, take this and put it into this and you get this result. And it was everything. I just looked at it and said, okay, you're going to have to learn this because this is on the exam. And, we want you to get a result in the exam because that's going to give you more options in your life. But why are you doing this? I can't tell you. I can't tell you this was ever useful to me. I can't tell you that why we're putting this number, this equation into this equation and getting this result. I don't know why. In quadratic equations, I just walked away from there thinking, I was a little bit frustrated. Now, partially I was frustrated because I didn't remember how to do it. That's down to me. But a big part of it too was, why are you even doing this? Why is this important? I want you to learn Photoshop. I want you to learn programming. I want you to learn Swift. I want you to learn how to do an interview, how to call someone, how to do a cold call, how to make things happen in the world. I don't want you to learn quadratic equations. What a waste of your time. And I don't want you to be the person who asks, okay, what are the A, B, C things, D things I need to do? And I'll do them because I do what I'm told no matter what it is, without asking any questions. I want you to be the person who goes out and asks the questions and changes things, like the Steve Jobs who puts a dent in the universe and says, I can change, I can mold what's there. The people who built all this stuff all around me are no more intelligent than me. I want that. I don't want you to be, okay, tell me the A, B, C, D that I'll do, and I'll go and do it. Whatever it is. I'll run into cannon fire. I'll run into machine gun fire. Because that's what I've been molded to do. And for me, that's everything that's wrong with the current school system. Quadratic equations are a metaphor for everything that's wrong with the current school system. But what's frustrating me is I don't know how to fix it. I know that, well, I do know that I have some ideas, but I don't have a full system of how to fix it, how to have a better education system where we don't need to learn quadratic equations. Now, if you're really into quadratic equations, sure, go and learn about quadratic equations for sure. But do we really need to teach every child that's born in Ireland how do you do quadratic equations? And can we even check of the percentage how many people learned quadratic equations and how many people found them useful and used them in their life? Can we even do that? I don't know. I want you to type in the comments what you think. Do you think quadratic, am I wrong? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe quadratic equations are the most useful thing in the world. Maybe I've lived this weird life where I've just veered around all the areas where you need quadratic equations. and they're actually very, very useful. People use them all the time. Maybe that's the case. Put in the comments if I'm wrong, please let me know. but I just wanted to talk about my frustrations around quadratic equations. This has been Alan here from Look for Warriors. Do me a favor, subscribe to this channel. Most of the other videos are going to be more interesting topics than quadratic equations. And hit a like. Hit a like, really, really helps me out.